capacity and whatnot. I still have my Corona beard going on.
Yeah, I
This
shaved it
may be the
today.
last time that you get to see Corona beard Brad. I haven't decided when I'm gonna to go back to Scruff Brad, but it's what was it, the last dev stream, everyone was saying that I look like one of the Viking characters from the from one of the pictures. So
Yeah, it's same here. I just shaved today, and I'm doing
did
also
you?
some social distancing. And on the good side, uh, I finished Witcher 3, which I wanted to do for several years. So yeah, quarantine is
Awesome.
not always bad.
Man, you should have kept your beard for one more day, Alex. We could have been the Corona beard pals on the
You
stream. That would have
didn't
been
warn
fun.
me, Brad.
Yeah, I shouldn't have. I should have. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. It seems like I'm getting notification that the volume is good now. Everyone, are we okay? I'm hearing better, blah blah blah. So let me know if it seems like everyone's doing better on the volume side. So that's good to hear. Awesome. All right. Well,
Okay.
we have a lot to go over today. I'm really excited about this stream. Now that we got the volume and all the stuff sorted out and people kind of filtered in, we're gonna go ahead and get started on our wonderful topic for the day. We're talking about the DevDiary number 7, which is all about rebellions. And this one's a really meaty one. There's a lot of content in this one.
Yeah, that's true. And rebellions are extremely important because they are something like a kingdom that has a control everywhere on the map. So they are extremely significant for military and civil economy of the game. So this is one huge topic.
Yeah. I think it's there's gonna be a lot of good meat for us to dive into here, and I think what I love about this is like there's a lot of depth that we've added into the rebellion and kind of stability aspects of the title compared to original Knights of Honor. It's something that I'm personally really excited about. I know it's I have at least one fun story from my rebellion experiences I've been playing, so it'll be fun to kind of share that with everyone. So to start off, I think in the beginning of the Dev Diary, we really talk about what instigates a rebellion, what starts a rebellion from happening, what can cause rebellions to come up. And from how I understand it, it kind of really is about these kind of two features that are very closely related but are a little bit different. That idea of like stability and revolt risk, and how some of your different values or what's going on with your populations or what's going on with your king and your royal court can influence that. So maybe to start, can you kind of talk about each of these things and what they are? So maybe kind of start with stability. What is stability about, and how does that work?
Right. The stability is the positive side of your kingdom. All the things that make your people feel safe, feel confident in your rulership, and they are usually global parameters. Things like your crown authority, for example, and some king skills can help there. It's Yeah, sorry, just a second. Yeah, okay. Right, and revolt risk is more the negative side of the whole equation. It represents some stuff like war exhaustion, high taxes, and a lot of other factors we can discuss during the stream. We'll definitely not be able to list everything because we are trying to make the game very immersive, and if the player expects something to be negative over the population, we are definitely including it as a revolt risk. So it's culture, it's religion, all kinds of tension, and presence of enemy fractions around other rebels and so on.
Yeah, I know that this kind of connects to what we talked about in the last stream about that kind of cultural aspect where when you take someone over, they may have a lot of instability, and since they're new people, the revolt risk could be really high, and so you may want to reduce the stability, you improve over time, but maybe you do some things to reduce the revolt risk, like the rebellion chance, a little bit. And as those two things are connected, there's actions you can take to reduce that chance while still letting your stability improve and things like that. Which I think it's kind of cool how all these different elements connect together.
Yeah. Right now, they are even more connected because we added a disorder state, something that is brand new, and it's something very powerful if the local population does not accept your rulership, if they don't, the majority does not support you, and so on. Uh, this this usually happens when you forcefully take a province, and
Oh, right. We talked
yeah,
about that last time.
yeah. It's they're even more
Why
connected.
wait? Maybe
You will
what
see
was it?
after.
I can't remember. Someone in the stream was last time was talking about how they wanted to be the ruthless kind of dictator type and be like, nah, you're mine now. I'm not waiting. But then you do that, and it's like, well, the revolt and stability risk, or the stability and revolt
Yeah,
risk goes through the roof. I imagine that scenario.
exactly.
So what kind of things can you do to like to counter that? I mean, I'm guessing there's different. I know in the DevDiary we talked about like those global things that you can do, as well as even some local things that you can do to kind of maintain. Um, I guess to the analogy of that last person's question, wish I remember who it was that was talking about that last time. But like that iron fist versus kind of the sweetness and being nice to your people. Like what are the things you can do on a global and
Yeah,
local level to deal with that?
yeah. There are a lot of things you can do actually. There are some structures you can establish that improve your local authority, which can reduce revolt risk or increase stability. It depends what structures you make. Here, the governor of the province is very important because he can,
Right.
depending on the skills he has, this affects those factors. And of course, you have actions you can undertake. And what we talked about, it's like in conquering a new province, you can have an iron fist and just destroy all resistance. And you can, for example, try to calm the population down using some night actions, which is usually better if you're prepared, but takes more time, and it's an interesting choice. You can definitely use both of those tactics. We are
Yeah,
working on.
it sounds like the royal court members are really kind of a critical part of how you can kind of handle the local issues. I know that it almost feels like a page out of Machiavelli, where it's like if you want to help your people integrate better, move to where who you conquer. So it's like you may have like that one or two people in your royal court that are really good at dealing with instability issues, and as soon as you take over a place that you really want to kind of calm the people down, you have this like, all right, you know what, you're moving there, like you're going to go live in that town, that province now, and use those skills and whatnot. I'm guessing like different royal court classes maybe have different ways to deal with the revolt. Like maybe a marshal's a little more
Yeah,
like a harsh, and a diplomat's a little more sweet talking, and different actions they can take. That's kind of cool.
yeah. If you have the marshal in that province, you have additional options how to deal with the problems with force. And we are now working on even more ways to tackle those problems. For example, we are discussing some diplomat and merchant actions that can help reducing revolt risk using money or diplomacy. They are
It's one
just
of the sorry.
in
It's
progress.
one of the coolest things that I like about like the Knights of Honor as a franchise, but especially about how we're taking things at Knights of Honor too. It really does feel like you're the king with these like these this trusted circle of advisors and these like knights around you that you can kind of exert your will and take care of the people, and or subvert the people or subdue the people, or there's all these different ways that you can play based on how you want to deal with your royal court. There's that famous conversation from back in the old, I think, original DevStream from Gamescom last year, and we were talking about playing like the all spy roll court game. And I can imagine like this is armies of spies governing all of the place, and hearing the rumors and like actions of seating, like paying people off in the city to keep the rebellions down, and but like just such a cool like mental fantasy of you having this royal court that kind of has the kingship, the kingdom managed your way. It's really, I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really fun.
that's truly what we want to achieve. Even we have talked about it, a kind of a deck building game. Depending on
Yeah.
what knights you have in your royal court, you have a totally different gameplay options, and yeah, it's very cool stuff.
So now we've talked about kind of the difference between a little bit between like stability and revolt risk. So in theory, you could have like a moderate level of stability, but still a very low revolt risk, I guess, like depending on how you're dealing with like the particular local province and the skills of the royal court or whatever.
Yeah, they rise and fall independently. So you can theoretically have very high stability and revolt risk simultaneously. I know it sounds a bit strange initially, but in the final, matters in the end is the proportion between those two, and also happiness plays a little role there. And thus we get the exact image we want to represent in on a global level and in each province in particular.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'm also seeing some questions about if we're showing new gameplay footage today. We're not having any new gameplay video today, but I think I'm not going to promise, but I do believe that next stream we should have some new gameplay footage to show. The milestone coming in on Monday has some new stuff that we're going to be able to maybe show you guys on the next stream, and a quick preview tease. I know we're going to talk about it later on the stream, but our next dev stream and next dev diary is going to be focused on music. So we'll probably have some video that we can associate with some music, and we'll have our composers on and talking about that. So, this should be, I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun stuff to talk about today with Rebellion. We don't have any footage to show for that, but the next stream, we may be able to show you guys at least some new video shots, and we'll have some cool audio to go with that too. So
yeah, I can back that up because we are now working on some more finalized visuals, menus, and so on, and the game is getting more and more presentable. Because so far we were working very much on tools, gameplay, and so on, but now we are starting to polish the visuals more and more. So we will feel more. We will be happier to show you more of the in-game footage. Thank you for the patience, guys.
Yeah, we actually debated about that for everyone on the channel. We debated about it quite a bit on this dev diary. We actually had a version of the dev diary that had some programmer art in it that looked pretty. It's basically just boxes and text. And we were like, do we want to show this? Do we not? It looks pretty bad. And we kind of decided that we were going to hold it back for now. The team is very much hard at work on features, but there are some UI efforts really going in and starting to make it look a little more presentable. So I'll tell you this, everyone, once we get to that point, it's gonna be like this tipping point where at the moment we haven't really been able to show much in-game footage and UI elements, and then all of a sudden we'll be able to show a whole bunch, and you're gonna get like pretty much footage every week, or every dev stream. So we're almost there. I know it's just a little bit more patience as we're kind of getting to that point. Yeah, I know some people are like, I'd love to see programmer art. I think it's almost like letting people come over when your house is a mess. It's like, yeah, the people may not care, but you do. It's like, no, I'm going to vacuum. I'm going to sweep. I'm going to like clean the counters off. I know you don't care, but I kind of care. So I think the developers, they've spent so much time on this game. They want to make sure that when they show it, it's the best foot forward. So
yeah. You don't want to see them, guys. I personally made some icons for the Steam achievements, and yeah, you don't want
maybe
to
see maybe an actual like UI artist should make those icons instead of the temporary ones that are made on MS Paint or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Oh man. All right, so a little off topic of the rebellions, but it's a fair request. I mean, if I understand, I would want to see game footage too, and we definitely hear you. We definitely want to get that out to you guys soon. But like we've talked about in other dev streams, I think it's also really interesting to let you guys hear about some of these features as we're building them and as they're being put together. So we want to give you a chance to hear about the game, and then as also we'll show the game as things come ready. So we're getting there. We're almost there. Oh, look at that. My Alex behind the camera queued up some of the footage we released in the past. At least you guys can see some of the previous footage there. It's good. Honestly, I'm really excited to show you guys some of the new. I mean, it's not going to be dramatically different, but you're going to see there's a lot of little touches that the teams are making to the visuals, even with the way that like provinces are laid out visually and some of just the details in the world. It's starting to come together. It's looking really cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of those visuals, another thing that I think we talked about or we touched in the dev diary was that kind of the rebellious populace or the people in the province that are kind of maybe a rebellion isn't happening, but they're the unhappy or the unstable populations, and those are represented, I guess, as certain iconography on towns. So what kind of things do like obviously it's really cool to show the player those kind of things in the world, but what are the kind of the impacts of having even before rebellion or stability goes out the window, like what are the impacts of having those kind of rebellious populists showing up in a province?
First of all, it kind of it kind of is a warning to the player that something is going wrong in that province. So you can very clearly see a bigger and bigger percentage of the population going unsatisfied from your rulership. And this is an interesting moment because once the rebellion has started, you might have limited options if your army is busy and so on. So you can tackle the problem even before it arises. And another element is that it has some economical effects. For example, you cannot hire those guys in the army. You cannot collect taxes from them. They are not supporting you by building structures or helping the economy in any way. They can immigrate to another town.
Really?
Yeah, right. If you have very good stability and happiness in a province, it usually attracts immigrants from other provinces around. Yeah, so this is kind of a soft problem you have with building with the buildup of that rebellious population, and it's also a very nice visual feedback. You can immediately see what happens in a province. So that's
see, even everyone here on the stream, even I'm learning something today, and I feel like I know the game pretty well. I didn't realize that like the populations that are in rebellion or kind of unhappy can immigrate both to your, to you steal population from someone else and they can steal them from you. They're basically unhappy. They pack the carts up and get out of there. Like, see you later, man. I'm gonna go to your neighbor. I'm done with you. That's kind of cool. I know they can reinforce rebellions, but I didn't know they could just move. That's awesome.
They bring goats too, so it's
they bring goats.
Yeah, and goat. They bring goat.
Gold. I thought you said they bring goats. I was like, I was imagining like someone's like, nope, we're taking goats. Goat comes with us.
That's actually that's a very good idea. I'm writing it down for the goats.
It's a little pop. It was like rebellion or people that are unhappy with your ruler leaving, and it's just like you have the civilians, and then like there's a goat with them always. And there's always a goat.
They have a visual representation with one cart. They're moving towards the other city, so we can always place a goat there. It's easy. Yes, these guys can also reinforce other rebellions that are going on around you. Even if you don't have a rebellion that started in your province, if they don't like you, they are just screw that guys. I'm going with that guys to be a bandit. So right.
With your goat. I love Kartakcha in the chats like, and goats. It's like the old Braveheart cry. It's like I can't just get freedom. I also need my goat.
Yeah, sorry for my pronunciation, guys. It's kind of rusty.
No, I love it. So I think there's it really feels like it's something you have to watch out for when it comes to like walking around, but like moving your camera around and seeing your different provinces. Even if maybe you don't have a rebellion going on, if a rebellion army comes into your territory and you have rebellious populace that are still kind of low rebellion risk, they may decide to just bounce and join and strengthen that army that's coming from another kingdom's rebellion, and then you have to deal with that. So there's a lot of like those ways that are tied together. It's really interesting.
Yeah, of course we have a lot of other kinds of representation of rebellion risk. For example, you have a political view where you can see the details. You have additional screen where you can see a summary. But the visual representation on the world view, it's just quick and sweet. It's just an addition.
Yeah, it makes it easier. I always like that. I like when you can, passively digest statuses of things by visual feedback, whether it be in-world UI or actual like visuals like mesh models or whatever that kind of show you different things. It's like it's a lot easier to react when you can kind of see something jump out at you from the world, as opposed to always having to open up a menu and read like a whole bunch of percentage values.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's actually, I think, one of the most being someone that plays a lot of 4X and grand strategy games, it's something that I really like about the Knights of Honor franchise too, and it's that world in diorama. It's not just always navigating a whole bunch of menus. You get some of that from the world, which is cool. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we go on to the rebellions themselves, and this is something that I think is a really cool kind of icing on the cake about stability at least and whatnot, is that you were talking a little bit about how you can have your realm stable and happy and things are going cool, and then a random event can happen or things can take place that can kind of throw a wrench in your plans that you have to react to. Like you can't. It's not just the world is alive. There are things happening and you have to deal with that. Can you talk a little bit about how some of that may happen? And I know some of these ideas we're still kind of scoping out and designing, so not all of them are necessarily going to end up in the game, but can you talk a little bit about that and how that kind of works?
I think that we're definitely going to keep at least a bunch of those, because it doesn't matter how satisfied are the people on average. There are always some events and guys that just don't like it. For example, something that happened to me once is a crusade passing through my kingdom. And some of the events, I'm not even sure why, because it was not towards me, the crusade.
I love a designer is like, I design all this stuff, I set up all the data, and I'm not even sure what happened. That's always a good moment.
Yeah, there are several reasons that can lead to that. So I'm not sure what exactly happened. For example, probably the kingdom the crusade was going for stopped existing, or something happened with the leader of the crusade. There are different situations that can cause that, but the crusade went rogue, and suddenly I'm having rebels that are crusade army inside my kingdom.
No.
Yeah, right. And there are a lot of other events that can lead to that. For example, if your army is hungry, you have problems with the food supplies, it can go rogue and start a rebellion. Sometimes clerics might rebel if you disregard their religion, or try to change the kingdom's religion, and so on. A lot of things can lead to such problems, even if everything seems perfect at the moment. So you can always be surprised.
That's funny. I can't even imagine. Like, it is a little bit realistic, but it's like the Pope is called for a crusade, and they're marching through your territories, and you're a good Catholic, whatever. You're part of that religion. And then all of a sudden, the Crusade's target is gone, and they're like, "Well, we're not going home empty-handed, boys. Let's go get some of our own." And you're like, "Wait a second, no, that's not. We're one of you." And they're like, "No, you're not really. It's time for us to pillage and take some spoils back."
It actually happened several times in history. Even Constantinople and the Latin Empire is just a rogue crusade, more or less. So it happens.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, it's fun to kind of think about those, and it's like those immersive or emergent moments that can just happen based on a collection of things, and you're trying to, it kind of adds that sandboxy element into the gameplay. It's something that it's where, in my opinion, is like it's the stuff that I like about grand strategy and 4X games the most, where you're I think you often call them like water cooler moments, where it's like, yeah, I was doing this random thing and it's all of a sudden, holy crap, like now I'm dealing with this. It reminds me like there's the Cartaccio is also like, sometimes those are the Alt F4 moments though, where you're just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Like right now, this is what I have to do. But that's also like, games are supposed to be that kind of, it's almost in a weird way. There's certain 4X games that have elements like that, where it's like, yes, sometimes it's really frustrating, but it's also, there is a little bit of an element where it's like, if you're good at these games and they don't throw some stuff at you, then you can just kind of like easy mode your way through it, and it's not challenging anymore.
True.
Versus like when stuff's happening and a crusade turns rebel and you're like, oh God, that's the worst time. My armies are at war. What am I going to do? They're going to take over one of my areas and I'm going to have this like rebel province growing, and everything it's like that makes it fun. Like it kind of adds an extra bit of flavor in there.
Yeah, it's some emerging gameplay, and it's not like it happens all the time to you. If your kingdom is very stable, you very rarely have such an event that will cause rebellion. And no one will support it. A rebellion will start, but if the locals like your rulership, they will not join in. They will
Yeah,
not support the rebellion.
it's true. It's true.
But it's a good situation where you have to tackle with something new to be surprised. That's interesting in games. We love emergent gameplay. We don't want everything to be by the book, scripted, and so on.
Absolutely. So let's go on to talk about the rebellions themselves. So far, most of our, I mean, we've already started transitioning into it, but let's talk about the actual rebellions because those are really interesting, I think. So now let's say, stability is tanked or something has happened, a rebellion is broken out. There's a lot more here, it seems like there's going on than the original Knights of Honor. Where Knights of Honor, in my experiences, it was really like you have a rebellious army, it's wandering around and doing stuff. It feels like there's more scale here. Like there's more like elements involved with how a rebellion works. So can you kind of talk about how that like the rebellions kind of start small and grow and some of those aspects there and how they kind of have extra elements to them?
Yeah, right. First of all, a rebellion now is a group of rebel armies. So it's not just one army doing whatever it likes, but it's an organized group. And this group has its zone, and this zone can grow. Not only they become as they become more and more in numbers and in strength, because they can be supported, their armies can grow bigger and bigger. But their zone can increase. They can start attacking your neighbors, expand, and they not only grow in the strength of numbers, but they have a hierarchy um, in, in the rebellion. So some of the rebels can become generals. There's always one leader, but you can have more generals. And these guys are very dangerous. They are not like just the random rebel army. So it's now it's just more important to tackle with those problems in time.
Yeah, I felt like that was a really cool addition to have that kind of it feels like there's like kind of three tiers of the rebellion when it comes to how they're organized and how that scales up as the rebellion gets worse and worse. So you have like the head of the snake, so to speak, or the head of the beast, where it's like that's the rebellion leader. It's the named person that shows up in the rebellion UI that has a kind of personality to it. If you're going to negotiate or deal with the rebels, that's who you're talking to. Then you have like the middle tier, which are the generals, and they're the ones that are leading the stronger armies, and they're a force to reckon with, depending on how big the rebellion is, at least, and how serious it gets. And then you have kind of the small roving bandits, basically. And
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
way, it's like a rebellion starts as just maybe one roving bandit squad with a leader, and then as it kind of gets worse and worse, then you get like a general spawning with the rebellion squad, and it kind of keeps on growing and becoming its own kind of nightmare, I guess, as they recruit your different negative populaces or whatever.
right. Generals can also have cavalry, like the leader, and if you
Okay.
kill the leader, the generals can become a new leader of the rebellion. So that's very important. So if there is a rebellion with a lot of generals, you can hardly stop it because you have to deal with all of them basically.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So it's like I don't think that makes sense. Like you have the actual leader, and it's the person that's kind of the name of the rebellion. And if you end the rebellion early, then if you kill him or capture him, whatever, then the
Yeah,
rebellion's over. But if it's a well-established rebellion, like these people have very clear goals, and there's a lot of different potential leaders that have grown up. It's like you have
exactly.
multiple leaders that could crop up. You kill one of them, another one takes over. They're kind of like they've established themselves.
Exactly. There is always a chance if you kill the leader to end the rebellion, but the more generals you have, the lesser the chance.
Right. And I think we talked about a little bit in the Dev Diary too, where there's multiple ways to tackle kind of subduing or dealing with the rebellion. So there's obviously the aggressive strategies, and I guess one of them would be just trying to go after that leader squad and trying to squish that out and deal with them right away. And I can imagine that in the early parts of rebellion, that's relatively easy. It's one army, you just go in there and deal with it. But as it goes on, trying to reach that squad can maybe be a little bit more challenging. And then there's the other part where it's like you deal with the generals first, so there's less chance that the rebellion could keep going once you attack the leader. Like, there's different like layers here that your strategy may change based on how long the rebellion's gone and where the leader is or how well established. It's like, well, why should I waste time and risk going after the leader if the generals are going to take it over right away? I may want to wipe out the generals first to just kind of end this in one blow.
Yeah, exactly. You have to always check what's the current situation, because there is not a single best strategy to deal with this. But you have to think what's best in your situation, and probably even as the game designers sometimes do not pick very optimal strategies, and rebellions can be very tricky thing right now, but interesting as well.
Yeah, Kacharka asked an interesting question. I'm going to go ahead and respond to you right now because it's really relevant to what we're talking about. Absolutely. I mean, he asked, will there be multiple rebellion marshals walking around the same province the bigger the rebellion grows? I mean, I've had personal experience with that. If rebellion starts getting out of control, you can have like under one rebellion's flags. Like say you have the rebellion of Joseph II or whatever, and he's the leader. He could have like 2 or 3 armies. So there could be like 3 armies or 4 armies running around under that one rebellion's name, and one of them could be pillaging and the other one could be sieging your castle, and it can be really messy if they get out of control. So it really depends on like how pissed the people are and how long you've let that rebellion fester.
Yeah.
And it can get really interesting.
Yeah. I had an interesting case while playing. I see there is a problem in my province, and I'm checking out what's happening, and I see that one of my keeps is under the control of the rebellions, and another rebellion faction is sieging it. So
oh, really? They're
yeah,
fighting
right.
each other.
It can happen. It depends on the agenda of the rebellions, but they can be even fighting each other sometimes.
Well, that's a good segue into the next question, which is another element that I think is a really cool aspect here. You don't have to just crush the rebellion. Like there's other options to deal with the rebellion, and some of that also could, be about sending rebellions into your enemies' territories, or So can you talk a little bit about some of these ideas about how maybe there's non-violent ways that you can kind of deal with the rebellion once it kind of breaks out?
Yeah, currently we're still iterating on this, so nothing is final there. But again, we are trying to implement more actions with different characters that can, for example, use uh, goats or even persuasiveness
Yeah.
to deal with rebellions. And for example, if you capture one of the rebel generals or the leader, you can, for example, try to bribe him into going into another kingdom, carrying your banners, but not part of your royal court, but just a Loyalist Rebellion. So
Okay.
one very interesting topic we can talk about.
Yeah, and I mean it really is kind of it's very multifaceted, because if you want to like say incite a rebellion in someone else's territory, or you pay off the leader to be friendly towards you, then all of a sudden you have like these multiple elements going on, and you have to kind of figure out how to deploy them. And like say you have a really good diplomat and you can resolve that at low cost, and all of a sudden now the rebellion is kind of like an extension of your army, and you can use that to soften up the forces before you go to war, or maybe even get a rebellion on your side to deal with another rebellion, because rebels can fight each other. Like there's some really interesting concepts we're exploring. None of that's final, but there's some fun concepts we're exploring there.
Right. It depends on the rebellion. If they particularly hate you a lot, then it's very difficult to deal with them without using force. But especially if there are a rebellion that is not particularly your enemy, it can be easier to turn them on your side.
Right. Yeah, it's like you said, like if it's a Crusader army that went out and got loose and is looking for a payday, you may be like, you know what? Listen, I'll give you some gold. Why don't you get your payday over there? Like, get out of my territory. You go over there and deal with those guys. And then there's a lot of different things that happen there. And I like that, because in the Rebellion UI, even right now, even though it's all programmer art, like MS Paint art, the Rebellion UI kind of shows you what the motivations are. Like, why are these people rebelling? what is the goal of the leader, and that kind of gives you some indication of what they may be more susceptible to when it comes to talking with them and trying to convince them to do certain things. Like if their agenda is to overthrow you because they hate you, well then your chances of doing anything there are pretty slim. But if their goal is to, you know, get wealth, or they're just they're mad about something, or they're loyalists from another kingdom or something like that, then there's maybe some other options you can react to. And it adds a lot of depth there.
Yeah, and we'll definitely work more on that, on the agendas and so on. It will get better and better.
Yeah. I know. Well, another thing that this is actually, I think, one of my favorite aspects of Rebellion. It's a feature that I've seen a couple times in other games, but it's something that is not done very often. And I love that we've added it into Knights of Honor 2, which is the ability for Rebellion to basically create a new kingdom. And this actually happened to me just a little bit ago, and I was playing, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was playing a game, and I was taking over. Oh, what's the kingdom in the middle of the Spanish Peninsula right now when you start off? I forget the one.
Castile?
Sorry, what was it?
Castile. It's Castile.
Yeah, Castillo. Yeah, exactly. It was Castillo. And so I was fighting them. They had like 4 or 5 provinces. I was at war with them. And so one of my goals whenever I play is to take over all of Spain, just because it's an easy kind of thing to go after in the beginning, at least right now. And so I was fighting Castillo, and they had a pretty good area of control, so it was taking some time to get through them. And I guess because the war was going on, their people got mad, and so they had a rebellion that broke out in their own province on the other side of the province, while I was coming from this side. And my goal was to wipe them out. Like I was trying to take over all of Spain, and so I ended up finishing it. Like I took over there was 2, what I thought were 2 Castillo castles left. And I took over the second to last one, and I got the pop-up saying that they're done. And I'm like, wait, there's one more left. And I go look, the rebels had taken over one of the castles and founded a new kingdom that had a new name, and I wasn't at war with them. And so I wasn't able to take over all the territory because there's this new kingdom there. And I'm like, well, do I now negotiate? Like, they were peaceful towards me. They didn't hate me. They hated the old leadership for getting at war with me. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I'll let them be and see what happens. And they raise up an army, and they attacked their next door neighbor, and they started gaining more territory. And I'm watching this. Basically, I caused a rebellion that birthed a new kingdom that was happy with me because now they had their own little thing. And then they were taking over and like conquering other parts of Spain. And we're just like, oh, my little children, go. And so I was like making them my friends and like sending them gifts and like encouraging them. It was just really cool to see these like emergent moments take place where, you have these like dynamics that are happening, and you just don't know. Like the map is not static. There's lots of things that are going on. I love that. I love that kind of moment. And I guess even to a certain degree, it can happen in your territory too. It's almost like a civil war breaks out, and a rebellion decides to take over a couple of kingdoms and then splinters off, and now you have like the fracture of your nation, and you go, well, do you make peace with them and over the generations try to just be a happy medium, or do you try to integrate the rebels back and take over your lost colonies, so to speak? I mean, there's a lot of fun moments there. I love it. It's really emergent.
Yeah. There's a very interesting logic behind the scenes. It's not something that the player has to deal with, but there is interesting logic whether they will create a new kingdom which never existed, restore a kingdom that once existed there but is no more. For example, you're playing several hours, and they can just restore a kingdom that in the beginning of the game was there. So they can join somebody if they have loyalty or preferences towards a particular kingdom. And so on. It's very interesting.
This kind of ties to the Loyalist Rebellions too, right? Like that's a whole concept we talked about in the DevDiary. As there's this type of rebellion that are Loyalist rebels. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Loyalist rebels, they always try to join your kingdom if you are to accept that. But the other rebellions might also try to join you. But the loyalists have some additional advantages. For example, they do not attack your friends, your allies, and so on. They are not just some crazy rebels.
Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, so it's a little bit different than I was thinking. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, they can even reinforce you during battle. You're fighting someone, and suddenly a rebellion army comes and helps you because they are loyal to you. So that's very interesting, and it's especially valuable if you are attacking a kingdom that has a loyal rebellions that are loyal to you. so they can help you. You probably have very low tension if you take the province, so that's another advantage, and so on.
It kind of ties to, I think, the culture war we were talking about before, where it's like, I mean, imagine it really is a pain being on the other side of that, but it's like if someone's attacking you and your culture is being subjugated by their culture, and then all of a sudden a rebellion starts up in your territory and they're loyal to the guys who you're at war with, their allies aren't being attacked by those rebels, they're not being attacked by those rebels, they're only kind of sieging you. It's like you're facing a war on like 2 or 3 fronts that they don't have to spend any resources to maintain, so it can get really tricky there.
Yeah, but you have the tools to try to make this not happen, or at least to happen very very rarely. So it depends what is your playstyle. If you have a good focus and actions over the internal economy and the stability, you will be well protected from this.
Right. Well, and same thing, I think it goes down to also the royal court. Like if you have a diplomat, maybe you use that diplomat to convince another rebellion to be loyalist to you before you go to war. So there's extra elements there you can play with.
Yeah, this is something with points for integration as well. Yes.
Yeah. Really cool. I mean, it's to me, it's a very exciting set of features. It just adds a lot of, like I said, a rebellion and all these dynamics add so much more opportunity for just things to happen that you have to react to, and that's, in my opinion, that's where these games really come to life, when the world feels organic and alive, and there's things happening that you're reacting to, and I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. We have about 12 minutes left. I want to get some time for questions, but is there anything else that you want to kind of throw out there, maybe a couple minutes, or anything like small that you want to talk about before we go into the questions section of the stream?
I think it will be great to see the questions, see what's interesting for our audience.
Okay, cool.
That's best.
All right, so now we're going to go into questions. I'm going to start with the forums here. Ivory Knight, I know you're out there. I was a little bit disappointed that you were the last question, so you don't get to be the first one this time. Do better next one. But the first question here is by Quintian V. The question is, and this is about what we were just talking about. It says, he or she asks, will there be a possibility to start the game as a loyalist or become a loyalist of your kingdom if your kingdom falls apart?
Right now, no, because the mechanics with the rebel factions, although they sometimes are similar to kingdom diplomacy and so on, but currently they are non-playable. You can only deal with them, but you cannot play as a rebel right now.
Yeah. It could be a cool idea for like a DLC kind of thing, maybe. Like if all of you guys help make Knights of Honor 2 really successful and everyone loves it and plays the game a lot, and we get a lot of interest in it, we'd love to continue making content for this game for a long time. That could be a fun, DLC idea where it's like maybe we release something that allows you to play as like a loyalist faction or something. That could be kind of neat.
Yeah, nothing is unthinkable, but right now it's not in the game.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah, makes sense. The next question from the forums, and by the way, as a reminder, you can join our community at community.knightsofhonor.com. So we welcome you to kind of jump in there and start participating in these conversations. We always read, I have my handy piece of paper here. We always read the questions, or always try to read the questions from the forums first. So if you want to get your stuff in, please join. The Dev Diaries go live the Tuesday before the Dev Streams. So you have a couple days to go in there. And I personally, every night before we do these Dev Streams, I go to the forums and I read them all and I capture them and try to get them answered, and maybe even get a fun shout out if you add a special request in there. So please come and join our community.knightsofhonor.com, and we'd love to have you kind of participate in those conversations there. We also have Discord, Facebook. We'd love to get you guys involved, especially as we're getting more into these specifics and the conversations are getting more interesting. So the next question is from Field Marshal. Field Marshal asks, will rebel armies still be composed of mostly peasants like in Knights of Honor 1, or will they be a bit more diverse, in other words, stronger when it comes to units they have? So low-developed provinces could spawn weak, i.e. mostly peasant armies, while well-developed ones could be a challenge to deal with. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
It's actually an interesting question because we recently worked on the way units for the rebel armies are chosen. So we're still iterating on that system, but the concept is that it first depends what kind of rebel it is. Is it a leader? Is it a general? Is it a normal
Mentioned
rebel?
earlier, like the general can be a cavalry unit or whatnot, and
Yeah, and higher tier units in general. And additionally, it depends where the rebellion formed and how. So if the province is very well military developed, there is a probability that you will have some of those high-end units fighting for the rebels. So
right. And the story of your in the situation that your story you told earlier, if a crusade's going through, that's gonna be a crusade army. So they're obviously gonna have some real soldiers in there that you're gonna have to deal with if they decide to go rebel right around you.
yeah, that's they just get the army the crusaders had, so you
Right.
can have some temporal knights against
That does
as
not
a
sound
rebels.
good. That does not sound good. That's where you're like, you
It's not.
immediately go into like payoff mode. You're like, oh my God, here, take some money, just go away. Please, I don't want to deal with a giant crusader army in my territory. That's funny. All right, next question is from our fan Ivory Knight. So Ivory Knight, it says, is it possible for the rebels to not only form new kingdoms and join existing ones, but to maybe start some sort of political, social, or cultural revolution? I am, of course, making an homage to the French and English revolutions, but it could be very fun to see a huge rebellious army taking control of the kingdom and radically changing a bunch of laws of the equivalents.
Yes and no. First, they do not change the culture or religion of the kingdom they are in, but when they form a new kingdom, so basically they need to control the territory to make such changes. It depends on what culture was the majority of the population
Hmm.
of that province the rebellion started. So they can have a very different culture and religion from your kingdom. So in a way, yeah, they can make some changes in the territory they are, but not in your
Right, right.
kingdom.
Yeah, like imagine like it's a jihad army or something that breaks loose in your territory as a rebellion, and you're Catholic or whatever. They may take over and institute a whole new religion in your territory if they decide to establish a kingdom there. So it could be a very big change.
Yeah, exactly. The Crusades are a good example. They always form a Catholic kingdom,
Right,
regardless of
right,
where they are.
right. So let's take some questions from the stream, and thank you to I think the team in the background here that's gathering those questions to Elena. I think it is. Really appreciate your help here. So the first question I got is Massive90. Are there any options to stop a rebellion once rebellion armies emerge, or are the only options to destroy the armies? I think we've actually talked about that some already. There's
Yeah,
multiple ways that you can react to rebellions. There's peaceful ways, maybe through depending on what their goals are. Like each rebellion has a goal, has something they're trying to accomplish, and you also have like the skills of your royal court and the kingdom power you have. There's a lot of factors that are involved. So there could be ways that you could get something when it comes to the rebellion resolved without actually having to, crush them with your army, so to speak.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
We covered
And this actually
this.
ties to another question. Beldroth TV asked, would negotiating with the rebels be realistic? Absolutely. You can open a channel with open a channel. Look at like Star Trek quote there or something like that. You can send missives, send pigeons, right, or whatever it was from the Game of Thrones thing. Like send, not pigeons. What was it? Shoot.
Goats.
What are the? Huh? Goats.
Goats.
Oh yes, you can send goats with messages. Ravens, right? It's ravens, but you can send a messenger goat to the rebellion to see if you can negotiate with them and see what they want. So there's lots of things to do. I like that messenger goat. You're here to hear, folks. Messenger goat coming to Knights of Honor 2. So the next question we have is from Kartacha. Will there be multiple rebellion marshals walking around the same province? The bigger, yep, we talked about that too. Yep, there definitely can be. Yep.
Yep.
Yagan Hagar 64, I guess, asks, is 1v1 v1 battles possible? Basically, could you have like multiple entities that are kind of fighting work there?
You can have more than two sites more than two factions in one battle, but just two sides. So it cannot be
Right,
one v
right. So it's
one
always
with
like
the
one
one, but
side versus another.
yeah, it can be two kingdoms against two other kingdoms or against the kingdom and rebellion, but it cannot be 1v1v1.
Right, 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 right. Another question asked to a point on combat. Simple Tony said, "Will the game feature a quick combat option like the first one?" You can go and answer that. I was going to answer it for you, but go ahead.
Quick combat, of course. This
Yeah,
is
of course.
it's crucial for the game.
Yep.
You cannot play each battle in detailed battlefield mode because
Yep.
it will be too
We
slow.
haven't talked about this too much, and some of it's still in development, so I don't know. Oh, good Lord, Alex. Sorry, the Alex behind the camera decided to put a goat up on the screen, so now there's that. Oh, good Lord. Is that going to be a new? That's like the new Easter egg of the stream. The goat's going to show up on future streams at random. Alex is going to just throw it up there, and you guys will have to just guess when he puts the goat up. That's great. Maybe we'll sign off with the goat. Good Lord. We're exploring and experimenting with adding even a little bit more complexity to how auto combat resolving works, and there may be some more functionality and options there as opposed to just the generic kind of like, okay, compare the two values of the army sizes together. So
it's much more complex and interesting, but we shouldn't go in details on that topic because it's
save that for
huge
another
and
one.
right.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more. Even in the quick combat, there are some interesting options added.
Yep. I think we have time for maybe one more question. Let me grab one out of chat. So, I mean, always we get the questions about the release date. We haven't announced the release date yet. We have hopes and we have dreams, right, Alex?
Right.
We have hopes and dreams.
And fears. And some fears.
No, don't say fears. You have a milestone on Monday. Don't say fears. The team is very much hard at work on the game right now. We're very much in development. We're not even in an alpha state. So, it's at that stage where, we want to give them enough time to build the game and find the fun and really make it a great game. So we don't have a release date yet. We have some targets, but at the end of the day, we want this to be the best Knights of Honor 2 it can be. We want Alex to not lose his sanity and the rest of the team not to lose their sanity. We want them to have a chance
Too late.
Okay. But a chance to kind of think through things and really bring all these cool game features we've talked about during these streams to life. So, we don't have the release date quite yet, but they're hard at work. I'm looking forward to playing the milestone on Monday. You guys don't get to play yet, but I get to sometimes. We'll keep on charging forward. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining the stream. We're almost out of time, so a little bit of housekeeping type stuff. So, our next dev stream is scheduled for the beginning of July. We don't have an exact date right now. I know we're targeting the diary to go live on July 7th and the stream to go on July 9th, but there are some scheduling things that we're dealing with because special treat and preview, the next dev stream and dev diary is going to be about the music. So we're going to have our first introduction to some of the music being worked on for Knights of Honor 2. We're going to have our composers, Yannick and Robin, on. They're going to be talking to us and previewing some cool stuff. And as I promised, we're going to be showing some new gameplay footage. I don't think it's going to be substantial, as in like we're not going to show anything gameplay-wise, but my hope is to actually record some new stuff and we'll have some music woven into that. So you'll probably see a couple new parts of the world map and maybe some other new elements and visual updates. So the next dev stream should be very fun. Not that this one wasn't. I think Rebellion was great, but we'll have that first stream in the music, and you guys have a chance to kind of get some ideas of what we're doing there. So put that on your calendars with pencil. Mark it in that first full week of July. We're targeting for that, and schedule it, and then you'll be able to enjoy that. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a blast as always.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
I think this is the first stream where you've been the guest the whole time, isn't it? Like, is this the first?
Yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah, so you went the whole hour today.
Yeah, right. It's exciting, like an alien movie. Kind of scary, but fun.
Exciting like an alien movie. I love it. Really appreciate you joining. It's been a lot of blast, a lot of fun, a lot of blast. Listen to me. Also, thanks to Elena and Alex, the people behind the scenes that are helping make this happen. Really appreciate all your effort. Guys, please join us at community.knightsofhonor.com. Become part of the community and join the conversations. If you have questions, you'll be able to get them there. The dev diaries are posted there. We'd love to have you be a part of it, and spread the word for the next dev stream. And we will see you guys in a number of weeks. So thank you very, very much for joining. You guys take care.
Thank you. See you. Take care.
Go Goats.